Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another Elders of Metal show. Tonight we have Siegfried Samer, I hope I pronounce it correctly, vocalist of melodic symphonic power metalers Dragony with us. Siegfried, good evening and welcome to Elders of Metal. How are you doing?
Good evening, doing fine. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you with us. So, okay, I'm gonna start with the typical stuff. Like, let me start with a short bio of Dragony. First of all, is it Dragony? Is it Dragony? It's Dragony?
It's Dragony, but we've had all sorts of variations. I think my favorite one was probably between Dragon Eye or Dragony.
Dragony. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Very good. So, the short bio of Dragony, for those who don't know the band, Dragony actually started in 2007 as the Dragon Slayer project, correct?
Correct.
And you then named the band Dragony. First of all, why did we have the name change? I know, but I think you should you should tell the story.
Yeah, sure. I mean, originally it was planned to be more of like a studio project, right? And since my name is Siegfried, and Siegfried is in German mythology the dragon slayer, and who bathes into dragon's blood to become invincible, almost invincible. So we started out as this kind of studio project, but when it became clear that we would actually be more of like a traditional band, we had like all band members together, etc., and we wanted to play live, then we decided, okay, probably changing it to something shorter and easier to remember would help. It would be a good idea. And then we decided to record the first album. And yeah, when we decided to do that and when we released the first album, that was also when we decided to make the name change so that when we released the album, it would already be under the new name. And yeah, after a little bit of thinking what we could go for, it should still be like something, fantasy related, because that was where we were coming from. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was our guitarist at the time who came up with the suggestion of Dragony, and it was more like of a joke, what we should call it, what we should call us, it should be Dragony. And it's like, yeah, this is stupid. And there's like, but it actually fits pretty well. And because it has like this kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, not too serious about ourselves, right? So, and it kind of stuck. And we stuck with it for now, it's been 14 years, going to be 15 years soon.
Yeah. I like how you said that, not taking ourselves too seriously. And I've read another interview of yours where you said exactly the same thing. And I have to say, sir, I really enjoy that. We don't have to be all super serious and everything. End of the day, we're doing what we love, right? And we should have fun with it. And, just go ahead, go with the flow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's a place for everything in music and in entertainment. I mean, we consider ourselves more of an entertainment band, provide a good time for people who want to go out and have a little bit of a party, and we leave the serious stuff and the deep subjects to others.
Cool. Okay. I can see we have some friends also in the comments section. Well, first of all, I think the guy, Nikos Siglidis, is here.
Yes.
He says, Dragony are gonna kill, big letters, on stage. Looking forward to see you brothers.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I mean, they were our guests earlier last year at the Dragon's Cry Festival in Vienna, which we organized, and the Silent Rage were our special guests. And now they're returning the favor and invited us to come to Athens. And yeah, really looking forward to that. It's going to be
amazing.
Cool.
I believe, judging from that experience, I mean, you guys had them over there as guests. Now they're having you over here as guests. So this must be a very nice, bonding thing between the two bands, right? You guys are becoming good friends, and
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, especially in the metal scene, still a good thing that a lot of bands are like do-it-yourself projects and do-it-yourself artists. And yeah, even if you have a label or if you have a booking agency, sometimes you want to do just things like the old school underground way, and this kind of gig exchanges really work well in that environment. And we still do them from time to time, and especially if it's a bit more exotic, where you don't come to play every year, because to Greece it's quite far. You need to fly, you need to do a flight show. It comes with some additional costs and some logistics, and you don't do that every day, so you need someone on the other side to help you out a bit, and I think vice versa.
Plus, if probably you're not the person to ask that, but maybe your guitarist or your bassist, or you just go into a plane and you never know if you get your guitar or your bass in one piece. stuff like that. So
Yeah, exactly. It's always a little bit of a nightmare scenario. Yeah, we upgraded our travel stuff specifically for that reason. Have good flight cases, etc. We don't play that many flight shows, but we've had a few, and it's like having good flight equipment definitely pays off.
And it's your first time coming over to Greece as a band, right?
As a band, absolutely, yes. I've been hoping to do that for many years, and yeah, thanks to the guys from Silent Rage, we actually managed to pull it off now.
Killer. What are your expectations from Sunday? And let's say here, let me be typical and make the introduction that Dragony are playing, for our Greek friends who are watching us, this Sunday, 23rd of February, we have the Ghostlands and Ravenlands Festival, which is organized by the Silent Rage, and it's going to be Dragony, it's going to be Element Zero, it's going to be Mistfall and I Abyssic all together on stage. Next Sunday, the 23rd, at Kitaro Live in Athens, 6:30, the doors open, if I remember all the information correctly. So, Siegfried, what are your expectations from the Ghostlands and Ravenlands Festival?
I mean, from what I've heard from Nikos is that pre-sale is looking pretty good, so it's going to be a nice crowd, I think. What I do think, and as far as I remember from those shows that I've attended in Greece in the past, I think the audience is not an easy audience to win over. I think the Greek fans have very high level of taste. They have high expectations because there's also a bunch of really great bands hailing from Greece, especially in the metal scene. So you're a bit spoiled, I think, in a good way. To measure up to that will not be easy. I'm also not sure if our type of kind of happy metal is really to the taste of most of the Greek audience. We'll find that out.
Not in that type, but I can very easily carry out an interview, and go through all the details and everything. No, it's not my type, personally. Apologies.
No, it's fine. Yeah. But I mean, in general, like the audience, I'm not sure if the wider Greek audience is really more into the happy metal. I feel they're more of an old
people, man. We've got the heavy power people, and I think there's a substantial scene, as far as the crowd, the Hellenic, the Greek crowd is concerned. I think there's a lot of fans, listening to this type of music. A lot of happy metalheads over here.
Right, because I always get a feeling it's like a bit more of like an old school, like classic heavy metal, or like thrash metal, extreme metal, of course, with all the cool black metal bands that come from Greece, like Rotting Christ, etc. So there's a bunch of cool acts. So I'm thinking that's more the general audience vibe. But again, we'll find that out on Sunday firsthand.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If we get booed off the stage.
Yeah. Before going on with the next questions, we have a few comments. Sorry, guys, I'm not that fast. I'm trying to read between some comments that are pasting, of course, some dragon emojis and stuff like that, like Sayaka Yu and Me Too Jakarian. They are posting some dragons. And my friend Vitamin Death, hey man, he's over there in every show. He says, as a dedicated extreme and dark metal aficionado, I hold Abigor and summoning in high regard. Both hail from Austria.
Yeah, we do have, actually, I think most of our well-known bands are from the more extreme metal genres. You mentioned we also, those two bands, of course, we also have Belphegor, who've been around for many years. We have Harakiri for the Sky, who are really popular right now. So there's a bunch of the more extreme metal bands that are really doing well here. We have some of the symphonic side as well, like my former band, Visions of Atlantis, where I also used to sing for a couple of years. Eden Bridge, Serenity. So it's like an interesting mix. So we have the symphonic side and we have the extreme side, and both are well established. At least a couple of bands are.
Mm-hmm. And Me Too Jakarian, I don't know, guys. If I read the names correctly and everything, the nicknames, says about the name that we were talking before, it says it has a dragon-y feeling to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are some of let's say my crowd from my Twitch streaming days, like Me Too, for example, Gabor, also Sayaka, we have to give a shout out. She's actually from Japan. So I think it's like very, very late night for her right now. So it's much appreciated that she's joining us.
Yokoso. Dozo yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Very nice.
Very nice.
Cool. Okay, so yes, and Torsten Ante says hello. Let me actually do the typical opening of every show, opening the beer and say yamas to everybody, which is the Greek way of saying, prost in your own language. So prost. Okay, and
the thing is, like, this looks like beer or like some kind of beer variation, but it's actually a protein drink. So
okay, I was
I'm
thinking
doing the
you were
healthy
drinking
version
perhaps
right now.
apple juice or something.
Yeah, the taste is pretty similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nico said before, time to change that, Zig. I think he was talking to the whether there is a lot of audience over here or something. I'm not sure.
For the happy metal, yeah,
there you
exactly.
go, there
So
you go.
we'll do our best. We'll do our best for sure.
And how did we call the name? Mitu Jakarian? Mitud.
Mitu.
Mitu
That's
Jakarian.
me too. So
Mitu.
first part is me too.
Okay. So Mitu says the question is, do Greek know how to have a good time? Because Dragony is the right band for that. Oh, I'm sure that everybody will have a great time. I wish I could join the festival because I'm in Crete. I'm not in Athens.
Oh, okay.
And there
that's
are
a bit
other
to
reasons,
go.
family
That's a bit
reasons, and everything that don't allow me to travel, unfortunately. But I'm sure it's gonna be like a great celebration, a big party. So I wish you all the best, you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Right, and yeah, that was a very interesting question from Sayaka, who also says, let me read that. Konnichiwa. It's 4 a.m. Ohayou gozaimasu. Yes. Sayaka says, your past band name is Eleftheria, which is Greek. And I also read it, and I was like, whoa, so Sayaka asks, who is the godfather of your band?
Of the previous band. Like, this was my first band when I moved to Vienna, like after finishing school, for university, and started with some buddies of mine. We didn't really go very far. We recorded a few like demos and like one EP, like nothing on a super professional level, but we had some fun with it. And yeah, that was, I think, like a 2-year kind of thing where that band existed. And I think we had no idea, how to even approach it really like semi-professionally. Even it was just like kind of bunch of friends getting together, pretending to rehearse and then just getting wasted basically on the weekends, when you're in your early 20s and stuff like that. And after that band broke up, I think that was in 2006 or so. So the band existed from like 2004 to 2006. I took a bit of a break, and then in 2007 kind of laid the ground foundation for what would become Dragony.
Cool.
Later on down the road.
So the godfather, who was it of the name?
Of that name, I think it was our guitarist at the time, one of my closest friends over the years. His name is Alan. He's originally from Bosnia, lives in Vienna, however, for many years now. And I think it was his suggestion. And sounded cool. It's like a little bit exotic, not so common, especially in Austria. So yeah, we went with it.
Freedom, cool. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so let me see where I was left with my questions. Okay, you, along with Herbert Gloss, your bassist, have been the two oldest members of the band. How do you feel about the progress you have made so far, from the days of your first full-length album entitled Legends up until today? I mean, it's a journey. It's quite a few years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's been a journey, and I think you can actually see and hear the journey in every album. So the first one was still like very like straightforward power metal. There was not really orchestration. Back then it was our keyboarder at the time who made a little bit of pseudo orchestral arrangements, but everything was really keyboard based. No real like virtual instrument or anything like that. And the production was still a bit rough. The individual performances, it was a little bit of more of a better demo, you could say. And then we tried to refine our songwriting over the years. I think that got a bit more to the point. Production got better. We worked with different people on the production side of things. Both with our longtime producer, who is basically our 7th band member. We worked with different audio engineers on the mixing, on the mastering. Also for orchestrations, we worked with some people. Up until recently, we worked with a friend from Austria who is very good with that kind of thing, but now he's very busy working on some, especially video game projects, soundtrack projects, so didn't really have time. He recommended us another fella from Denmark who did a really great job on our most recent album, Hic sunt Draconis. So yeah, it's been a constant evolution, always integrating new elements, working with new people, trying out new stuff, and just overall trying to improve the end result, the end product. And I think you can really hear the difference from the first album all the way to now to what is actually our 5th studio album.
Yeah, of course. There's definitely been a lot of progress over there. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the latest album, it's overall, you always have to say that, but it's overall, I think, our best album, because I think songwriting-wise, it's very much on point. It has a lot of diversity. There's a lot of different types of songs, because this is something that's kind of gotten a bit boring to me, especially in today's like modern power metal scene, where you have the feeling that a band has to have like a very specific type of sound, but that often results in every song sounding exactly the same. It's just like, we have that song that really gets popular with the crowd, and then we write 12 times again that same song for every album. And that gets really boring for me. So what we tried to do on this album, and I think we succeeded, is to have a little bit more diversity in the songwriting. So we have like some old school, turn of the millennium power metal stuff. We have some more modern influences in there from bands that are popular today, that you can hear there. A little bit, of course, of our very old school approach. I'm a big Meatloaf, Jim Steinman fan, and you hear that in a lot of songs, especially on this album again. So I think it's a good mix, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. And in terms of production, we this time worked with Jacob Hansen, who really is, of course, one of the best sound engineers in the business today, I think. And his style just fits perfectly to this kind of symphonic power metal as well. So overall, I think it's a big step forward for us, and yeah, very happy.
So, Hic sunt Draconis is the latest album, and would you say that you are happy with it in total, with the whole package, with the sound, with the artwork, with everything, how it turned out?
Yeah, actually, I think we... not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think we did a good job also, making the most of the material. We invested also some money in making some decent videos, both like with live action videos, some visualizer lyrics type of videos. We're actually going to release a 5th video for the album now next week, just in advance of the upcoming European tour. So we're actually going to be having 5 video releases around the album, which is more than we've ever had in the past. Usually you have like 1 or 2 let's say live action videos, and then you add 1 lyrics video, so you have 3. This time we try to go the extra mile, have a bit more stuff to promote, a little bit more on the promotion side of things, just to make the most out of the album. So I think, yeah, overall pretty happy with the whole product. Artwork, I think, worked well. We also have individual artworks for the singles. So yeah, it's just, I think, a well-rounded package.
My friend Vitamin Death, he says, finally, someone said it. No one wants listening variations of the same song 9 or 10 times on the same album.
I mean, we have variations of the same song from album to album. I'm not going to lie about that, but I try to not have it too much on the same album.
Okay, cool. You have released 5 full-length albums. The latest one is Hic sunt Draconis. How is it different from your previous releases, would you say?
On the one hand side, I think it's different because over the years, like I said, our producer, Frank Pitters, he's also a very good friend of ours, and he's been working with us since the early days when we were still the Dragon Slayer project. So he recorded our very first demos with us. He's a studio engineer for first and foremost, but he's also a very good songwriter. And usually we started working with him as a sound engineer and producer in the studio. And over time, his role became bigger. And nowadays, we're basically working out most of the songs together with him in the studio, writing them together with him in the studio as part of our pre-production. And some of the songs actually are basically ideas that came directly from him. So he has a huge influence on how our sound evolved over the years. But I think especially on this album, he contributed a lot of great ideas. Again, a lot of diverse ideas. So compared to the first 2 albums, which were basically mostly written by us, now his influence can be heard even more, I think. And that's, I think, the biggest difference to previous albums.
Hmm. And the title of the album means "Here Be Dragons" in Latin, correct?
Yeah, be dragons. That's correct.
Okay, and I know that you were good with Latin at school.
I pretended I was good in Latin. I did. I was the only one from my class who decided to actually choose Latin as one of his graduation subjects for the actual oral exams. But it was only because you knew exactly what you would be getting. So because you would translate a certain part of Latin text to German, but it was one specific author that you would focus on. In my case, it was Seneca. And I knew and there was probably like, let's say 10, 20 pages that you would need to prepare. So you knew exactly you would get like one page to translate from out of those 20 pages. So it's pretty easy, and you can prepare this pretty well. So I did pretty well on that. I think nowadays my Latin is a bit more rusty. You don't use it, you lose it. But I have a certain fondness for it for sure.
Perfect. But it turned out like some useful knowledge today, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Cool.
In my day job, I'm a lawyer, so there's also like a little bit of Latin involved in the whole stuff. So that helps a lot as well.
Cool. All right. You have also released quite a few video clips, Beyond the Rainbow Bridge, Gods of War, Legends Never Die, etc. Are we going to see more video clips in the nearby future from Dragony?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we're gonna have one out actually next week. So on Friday, I think that's the 28th of February.
Okay.
We're gonna release the last video clip for this new album.
Cool.
Of course, now it's nothing new. It's a song that people have heard now. I think a couple of times, but we were actually recording this video as part of our whole video production process back in, I think it was like May, June last year. And it was one done in the studio. It's like kind of a simpler video, but I think it's nice and it fits the song. And we decided to keep this for, a bit later after the release to kind of remind people, hey, we released this album a couple of months ago. Here's another video to one of the songs. If you haven't done it until now, check it out now. And especially since we have the European tour upcoming, I think it's a good idea to, have something new out that you can start to promote again, that you can put maybe some advertisements again, etc. So yeah, that's the fifth and final video now for Higgs on Draconis.
Okay, cool. And a comment I told you before we get on air, before we get live, is that I loved your background, which looks great. So you said that it's not by chance. It's not by. It's related, isn't it?
It's related. Like, yeah, during the pandemic when you couldn't really do anything else, I was also streaming a bit. This is what's left of my setup. The camera is actually not my usual streaming cam. I gave that away to actually our guitarist for his studio. They were doing some streaming there, so I'm just using my built-in webcam on the laptop right now. So that's why the image quality is just not top of the line, but everything else is still kind of there. And yeah, so it's always easy to do these kind of interviews because you still have like kind of a basic setup ready.
Mm-hmm. So you're also a gamer.
I'm also a gamer, definitely.
And as I said before, you'll probably play role-play games.
Yes, absolutely. So dragons preferred. Yeah, they don't absolutely have to be there all the time, but it's preferred. And the funny thing is, like, this album, Higgs on Draconis, is actually the first album we have that has anything with a dragon in the album title or the album cover. So it's been 5 years for a band called Dragony to have something with dragons on the album title or cover. I think it's time. Mm-hmm. So for my games as well, I do like some dragons. Don't always have to be dragons, but I'm okay with them.
Definitely. So favorite video games?
Oh man, too many to mention. I mean, at my age, I grew up in as a teenager in the 90s, so the biggest nostalgic memories go back to Final Fantasy VII, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, those kind of games. Cool. So old PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 times. Nowadays, there's so many games out, and now you finally have the money to buy all those games, but you just don't have the time to play them. It's very sad. I think for modern games, one of my favorites is probably The Last of Us.
Okay.
Not so many dragons though, more zombies.
Okay. And Vitamin Death asks the question: dragons or worms?
Yeah, still have to go with the dragons, I guess.
Okay, there you go. Okay. And Sayaka says, if I could hear Siegfried's voice, it would be precious for me, even if it is the same variations of song.
Well, that's good. I think we will manage to do that. Some variations of the same songs in the future as well.
And we have our friend Pavlos Klad, who says, good evening to everybody. Pavlos, hello Pavlos, welcome. Right, so with the next question, I was amazed to hear your cover on David Hasselhoff's True Survivor. Now that was amazing, from the mighty Kung Fury. Not everybody knows, but it's cult. That was an amazing surprise. How did you decide to cover this fantastic homage to the 80s?
Yeah. I mean, that was just really coincidence because we were just, I think we had just finished the recording process for our second album, Shadow Play. So with our, all the original songs, etc., everything was done. And then it just happened that Kung Fury came out, and especially, I think before the movie even came out, it was the video clip for the title song, True Survivor, with David Hasselhoff. And, as a kid, as a child of the 80s, I grew up, watching Knight Rider, etc. So I was always a huge fan as a kid, listened to a lot of David Hasselhoff music. As a German-speaking countries, he was huge over here in Austria and Germany.
Yeah.
So when he came back out of nowhere with this kind of song, and it was this really cool, like 80s pop rock anthem, we said, and there were a lot of covers, of course, on YouTube coming out as well. We said, oh, guys, we have to do something as well. And yeah, since we were just finishing or wrapping up the production of the second album, we decided to add this one more song as like a bonus track, and made a little, do-it-yourself video, very simply, but I think fun. And yeah, it's a cool song, and we did play it live a couple of times. Now that we have already 5 albums out, we really have to be a bit picky with our set list, and of course on current shows we play a lot of the new album, but let's see, maybe we will do it, we will put it back into our set list sometime soon, because incidentally our second album, Shadow Play, celebrates its 10-year anniversary this year, and maybe we'll do something about that later this year.
Perfect. And you said a word previously. You said the keyword fun, because I wanted to say it was also really fun to watch the video clip, and you guys took care of all the little details in order to bring a cool 80s feeling to it.
Yeah. We have, I think, 2 videos in that style. One is, of course, True Survivor, which was really a very much do-it-yourself kind of project. A good friend of ours, he was mostly a photographer, but he actually decided to help us out on the filming here. And we filmed the stuff at a small club in Vienna, where we used to play quite a bunch, and even at our producer Frank's old studio, just adding, a lot of silly costumes and a few like tongue-in-cheek moments. And I think that was a very good first step in that vein for us. But then we kind of turned the whole thing to 11 with the first single for the next album, which was If It Bleeds, We Can Kill It, our tribute to Arnold Schwarzenegger's Predator. And that video clip is basically Predator meets Hot Shots. So it's kind of taking that same feeling and put it on the next level. But cool. True Survivor was the start, for sure.
Cool. All right. And my friend Vitamin Death asks, he says, has any of your lawyer colleagues ever been to any of your shows, letting that suit aside and enjoy a heavy power night out?
Yeah, actually, they have. I mean, I don't work as like the classic lawyer, that goes to court, etc. I have a law degree, and I work in sort of a like legal adjacent function. But my main job is actually I'm working in music licensing. Okay. So it's kind of music related, but also law related. So it's a good job. I enjoy it, and my colleagues they're a little bit more like easygoing, I would assume, than the classical, typical like full on lawyers guys.
Okay, cool. Since your friend Sayaka is here with us, I wanted to ask you: first of all, which countries have you played outside of Austria?
We've played a lot of countries outside Austria. We've done a couple of European tours, of course. Our first one was back in 2015 in support of Shadow Play. We went for a 2-week run with Gamma Ray. So that was our first tour. That was really cool. We played some tours with Serenity and also with my previous band, Visions of Atlantis. We did our own headline tour, our first one in 2023, where we did 2 weeks of Mexico. A tour in Mexico, which was quite the adventure and quite unexpected, an unexpected journey. as the fantasy nerd would say. So that was really cool. We played a couple of festivals, of course. Like we played Wacken. We play a lot of times in the Czech Republic. We have really good friends and connections there at festivals like Masters of Rock, Rock Castle, where we're also going to be playing this year. One of the coolest things, of course, was 70,000 Tons of Metal, the cruise, which we did in 2019. So we've been around a little bit.
Have you been to Japan?
I've unfortunately not been to Japan. We were trying to work something out that maybe could make this happen, but right now the budget is a bit tight, and doesn't look like this is happening anytime soon. It's not completely off the table, but let's see, maybe in a year or two when our finances have recovered. Let's see if we can pull that off.
Regardless of the band, have you, as Siegfried, on your own, ever been to Japan?
I have not. So it's also very, very high up on my bucket list. I really want to go. Our bassist Herbert has been a few times. Our guitarist Simon, he's actually half Japanese, so he's been a couple of times. Most recently this Christmas, he was there for a month. So I definitely want to go. And of course, if I want to go, I would prefer to go with Dragony and play a few shows there.
Perfect. You're gonna love it. Trust me. I've been there like 4 times, and I'm in love with that country. It's my favorite country. So
I mean, you speak Japanese pretty well from what
I'm
learned,
learning. I'm not speaking pretty well. No, I'm on a basic level, but I can fool people that I speak because of the accent. But that's just
but it's good. It's good.
yeah. And Sayaka says, as we said, says, please come to Japan. There you go. Okay, it's on the list.
I hope
it's
so.
on the table.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
Right, Siegfried, you were also signed with Napalm Records, and you moved to SPV Steamhammer. How did this change come up, if I may ask, of course?
It's kind of a small change because nowadays SPV belongs to Napalm.
There you go.
So Napalm bought them a couple of years ago. I mean, SPV has been around for like 40 years. They're really cool, traditional label, but I think they faced some difficulties over the years as well, as many labels have. And I think in one of those times, I think Napalm snatched them up. And so they belong basically to the Napalm family. And when the discussion came up whether Napalm would, take the option for the next album, that was part of our deal. They decided, we'll talk to SPV. Maybe they want to take it over instead. And so that's how that came to pass. And I think it's a good fit. I think stylistically, we fit a bit better actually to SPV. We're still, I think, a bit more old school sounding than a lot of the other bands that are coming out through Napalm right now. So Napalm, I think, is very much, let's say, the more trend oriented label.
Yeah.
To say it maybe nicely. And I think we're not really riding too much on those trends. We've always been doing kind of our own thing. Of course, we incorporate elements from stuff that is popular right now as well, because of course it inspires us as well. But we don't say, okay, we have to do this kind of gimmick now, or this kind of genre, or this kind of look, or whatever. And I think SPV reflects that, because they have a lot of bands that have been around for a long time that have always been doing their thing. I'm thinking about bands like Rage, like Freedom Call, to stay with the happy metal stuff. But they also have some cool like hard rock acts like Dead Daisies. So it's a really cool mix and a bit more old school approach, I think, than Napalm. And it was a really good fit.
But it's like more or less like logistics. The fact that you moved to SPV, you haven't left the Napalm family, so it's like basically like remaining in the same label, right?
Basically, I mean, of course, SPV is still its own label, so they have their own production, they have their own promo channels, their own employees, so it's still a separate entity. But it kind of they sort of belong a little bit together, but it's not that close. It's still 2 separate things.
And I suppose that you guys are very happy with your cooperation with these people so far.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, Napalm, of course, I think is probably one of the leading independent metal labels in the world right now. SPV, as I said, has been around for 40 years, so they are a household name, have a very good reputation. They have a lot of experience. So I think we're in good hands.
Okay. So, obviously the main subject of the band is the fantasy world, and may I say dragons again. But I would like to hear it in your own words, where you draw your inspiration from. Is it like movies? Is it specific books? Would there be some Tolkien perhaps, or,
It's pretty much all of that. Actually, Tolkien specifically has not been really influential because we already have Blind Guardian, and I think they did it extensively and exhaustively. There's not really much to add to that. But other than that, it's certainly all kinds of pop culture media, from books to TV shows, movies, video games. As I said, I'm a big gamer, so there's a lot of influence there. Especially on our third album, Masters of the Multiverse, we have a lot of pop culture influences. So it's this album, Masters of the Multiverse, is actually more of a single song oriented album. So every song tells its own story in its own universe, and there's some influences from video games, like old Super Nintendo games like Secret of Evermore, like the Diablo game series. So a lot of different influences. We have like anime on that album. We have stuff like Game of Thrones that was already influencing us on the second album, for a song like Wolves of the North, or video games. One of my favorite game series, Dark Souls, was influential for the song Killing of the First Flame. The game Bloodborne influenced Lords of the Hunt, also the title song from our EP from 2017. And on the last two albums, we switched a bit away from that, from those like pop culture influences, to do a little bit of our own storytelling again, similar to what we did on the first album. So we came up with kind of a concept album with a concept story for both our previous album called Viribus Unitis and now for Hixon Draconis. And those two are both like alternate history retellings of actual historical events with like a fantasy twist. And that's like the theme of the last two albums. So it's kind of a mix of a lot of different things.
Okay. So, and what do you try to express in your lyrics usually?
First and foremost, I still think it's like an entertainment, of course. If I'm writing a song about a specific subject that's inspired by some pop culture element, I want, of course, to incorporate the important elements of that story, of that background. If I'm writing a concept story like we did for the previous two albums, then I want to just have like basically the red thread, Ariadne's thread, as the Greeks, I guess, would say, to be kind of the main story that guides us through all the songs, and then each song tells a separate part or section of that story. So it's different goals, I think, depending on the overall concept of an album or a song.
Cool. And music-wise, I would believe that Halloween, Camelot, Guy are some of your favorites. Perhaps Rhapsody too. Am I wrong?
All of the above. I think my main influence is probably still Guy and Avantasia. So I think you can hear a lot of Tobias Summit songwriting in my own approach as well. But yeah, it's like a lot of those bands. I grew up. I think my introduction to power metal was basically, or true metal, was Hammerfall, because they always say they're not power metal, but we know they're power metal. So Hammerfall, and then like you said, Rhapsody, Stratovarius, Camelot, Nightwish, Guy, Avantasia, etc. All those like late 90s, early 2000s European power metal bands.
How about bands like Manowar or Virgin Steel?
Virgin Steel is actually low-key my favorite band of all time. Really love them. Of course, if you really love them, you can say, okay, you really love the old stuff, Noble Savage, Age of Consent, then you have to skip Life Among the Runes. And then you can like again everything from Marriage of Heaven and Hell, parts 1 and 2, Invictus, and House of Atreus. After that, it gets problematic, as we all know. I mean, Visions of Eden is still okay, but yeah, one of my all-time favorite bands. Those are especially the Marriage of Heaven and Hell and Invictus albums. I can listen to all day, every day. So the Manowar I also like, but they often get compared to each other. I don't know why Manowar and Virgin Steel, because they kind of came up at the same time, I guess. But musically, I think they're very different. And Manowar, the main thing Manowar has going for them is Eric Adams, who is phenomenal, one of the greatest singers of all time. But from a pure musical point of view, I definitely am more into the Virgin Steel type of songwriting.
And bands such as some people say that you normally pronounce it as Kirithungol or Sirith Angol, as a lot of
Kirithungol, yes.
Yes, or Broca's Helm.
Yeah, I mean the old school underground 80s heavy metal, doom adjacent, epic metal. Little bit. I haven't listened to a lot of those bands really too much. Sometimes I will kind of dabble in that kind of genre. I think from like more contemporary acts would be something like Atlantean Codex from Germany. I think they are kind of in a similar vein. It's quite interesting. I think they also go, let's say, if you take Manowar and take out the power metal voice and add a bit more doom, then you get to these kind of acts, right? It's something I listen to occasionally, but it's not really regularly in my playlists. Let's put it that way.
Vitamin Death, he says, The Face is the Dave Mustaine of power metal. Manowar is Metallica in that sense.
Yeah, like The Face. Yeah, the thing is, like, I love his vocal work, especially like in the 90s or early 2000s. I think he had some vocal issues afterwards. It was never quite clear. Nowadays, he's struggling both with his voice, I think, and his songwriting. I actually reached out to him a couple of years ago. I think it was for the second album, like to maybe do some guest appearance or something like that. In the end, it didn't really materialize. We went with Zach Stevens instead from Sabotage to do a song together. I really would still love to work with The Face at some point. But right now he's just so very focused, I think, on making of having Virgin Steel as his own project. He turned to recording everything himself, mixing, mastering everything himself, and that's not necessarily the best approach at all times. I always think that if you record your own stuff, you should still have like a different pair of ears to do the mixing and mastering, because that always adds a lot of fresh ideas. And right now Virgin Steel has become this kind of very much one-man show, and I think it's not necessarily the better for it. I think it would be cool if he, got a real band together and then, went a bit more old school again. But I guess those days have passed.
How was that collaboration with Zach Stevens?
Oh, that was pretty cool. It was at a time where he was not really super active. I was at a time for some time promoting shows in Vienna as well for those kind of bands that I liked. And at the time he was still with Circle to Circle, and I promoted a show of theirs in like really this small club in Vienna, actually the same one where we filmed the True Survivor video. And it was cool. I think that was back in 2013 or something like that. And so after that, when we were recording the second album, I reached out to him, and he was up for it, and it was very easy. We sent him, of course, like you always do. You just send him the track. You send him with your own vocal line. He does his thing. And I mean, he's a fantastic singer. He's a legendary figure in the business. So that turned out pretty well.
Cool. Okay. And Vitamin Death, he says, do you collect any vinyls or CDs, cassettes, etc., or has YouTube and Spotify won?
For listening every day, Spotify has definitely won. I still have my whole CD collection right here on the wall next to me. I'm not buying CDs anymore. The stuff I'm buying now is vinyl. I do have a vinyl player, but it's really more for collecting and supporting the artists. So when I go to shows or when I really want to support an artist, I will order the vinyl for the collection. But on an everyday listening basis, it's just much more convenient with the streaming services.
Okay, cool. Right. You're on tour at the moment, and, well, you will be, and you're preparing to tour along with Sirius Black and Autumn Bride in March. Can you tell us a few words about this upcoming tour, where you guys are going to play, etc.?
Yeah, so this is kind of a full circle moment a little bit, because it was 10 years ago, back in 2015, that we went on our first tour with Gamma Ray, and Sirius Black at the time were the other support act, the special guest. So we've kept in touch ever since, and every now and then Mario, the bassist from Sirius Black, would ask us, "Oh, are you available? Do you want to do some shows together?" And this time, it kind of worked out really well timing wise, because we just had the new album out. They have their new album out. Autumn Bride, who are also from Vienna and friends of ours, they also have a new album out. So we decided, okay, let's do this. Let's do a few shows together. And it's overall it's a 3-week tour. Autumn Bride are doing the whole tour together with Sirius Black, and Dragony we're gonna join on the last 2 weeks. And the first week will be a power metal band from Germany, Rigorius. And we'll join actually on 18th of March at the show in Vienna. So that's logistically quite easy for us. So we join in Vienna, then it goes down to Italy, to Bologna. From there, we go to Lyon, in France, and to Spain, where we'll be playing 4 shows in Zaragoza, Vitoria, Madrid, and Barcelona. We go back via Paris to Belgium and Switzerland, and then we top it off with 3 shows in Germany, finishing in Munich. So again, pretty close to Vienna. So we'll have an easy trip back home as well. So it's quite convenient routing for us this time, and a lot of cool places. Especially, I'm looking forward to going to Spain, where we've not been with Dragony, and also going back to France. We only played there once, I think, in the past, only in Lyon. So playing Paris will be cool as well. Looking forward to that.
And you will also play at the Metal Escalation Festival 2025 in Lower Austria on the 29th and 30th of August.
Right. We have
Schloss Tupac. Shall I call it? I don't know.
Yeah, Schloss Tupac, exactly. So we do have a few festival shows upcoming. The first one will actually be in May. That will be in Germany, the Pirate Fest. And then we'll be in Czech Republic at Rock Castle Festival in August. I think we also have something in June, but I think that has not been officially announced yet, so that's going to be coming soon. Then we have the festival in Metal Escalation, end of August. We have some festival in Austria, another one in where's that, in September, and I think another one in Germany coming up later this year, which should also be announced in the coming weeks. So there's a few things coming up still, and we'll get to travel a bit and promote the new album, and yeah, looking forward to that.
Cool. And Vitamin Dev, he says that Spain is Greece on steroids. You'll have fun. Good crowd.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
Okay. Before you mentioned something like a Pirate Fest or something, if I heard it correctly. Okay. So
yeah.
That gives me the idea to ask you also about one more band, of course. You know which one it is?
Visions of Atlantis?
No. Okay. I was gonna go for Running Wild.
Oh really? The original pirate band, right? Okay. Oh, okay. I thought Visions of Atlantis because they have the pirate theme now, and I used to be with the band for a couple of years. So, but Running Wild, yeah. We're actually going to be playing at
talk
Rock
about
Castle.
them as well. Talk about them as well after Running Wild.
Sure. Yeah, so Running Wild, I mean, I've seen Running Wild a couple of times over the years. Actually, this summer when we play at Rock Castle Festival in the Czech Republic, Running Wild will be the headlining act. So that's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, one of the all-time cult bands in like, let's say early power metal, maybe you could call them, or like classic heavy metal from Germany. Yeah, I mean, Running Wild is Running Wild. No other band really sounds like Running Wild. Many have tried, but yeah, Running Wild is just their own sound, I guess. And Visions of Atlantis, yeah, my former band, I used to be with them for 5 years, from 2013 to 2018. Recorded one album during my time there. It was when current lead singer Clementine Delaunay from formerly Serenity and Wisdom joined. And yeah, it was a cool time, cool experience. But when it became clear that the band was really, picking up steam, and they would be touring so much as they're doing right now, because they're on tour like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months a year, that's not going to work with my normal job. So I had to say, guys, it was nice, but let's maybe find someone else to replace me for the next album. I'm not going to be able to do that. Thankfully, things worked out really well, and they're doing really well right now. So that's cool.
And how is the acceptance of the fans so far, especially after your latest album?
For Dragony overall, you mean?
For Dragony.
I think we always manage to grow our audience a little bit with every album, especially when we switched to Napalm. It was, of course, a bigger step because it gives you a bigger profile. I think we're doing well. I think we're kind of still a little bit of part like underground secret tip, but yeah, let's say we're not going to be headlining Wacken open air anytime soon. But yeah, at the end of the day, it would be awesome though. But yeah, so I think we have a nice standing as kind of like this charming little underground, semi-underground band that pops up every now and then, releases something that I think a lot of people in this that like the symphonic power metal seem to enjoy. But we're not getting like the standout, oh my god, this is the next big thing reactions. But I mean, that's okay. You have to have those bands that are the trailblazers, and then you have those that are the bit players. And I think we're a bit more on the bit player side, but that's fine as long as we're having fun and the people are having fun. What's not to like?
Cool. And you got to play next to some big names. How did it feel playing along with some of your heroes?
That's always the coolest thing, kind of. And I think that's also one of the main reasons why I started the band in the first place, because you want to kind of get into that cycle and circle of people and get to know the people that you kind of grew up listening to. So it was really cool. We played, I think, twice with Sonata Arctica, for example. We played a support for Blind Guardian. We played with Gamma Ray. We played with Primal Fear, Freedom Call. Freedom Call, for example, was the opening band on my very first metal concert I went to, which was Hammerfall. Special guest was Virgin Steel, and then opening act was Freedom Call. So it's really cool that years later I would, first of all, promote shows for Freedom Call in Vienna. And we've played many shows with them over the years. Just recently, now last December in Czech Republic. So that's always really, really, really nice. There's still a few on my bucket list there as well that I would like to play with or share the stage with. Let's see if and when then that might happen. But it's always great experiences. Yeah,
must be a great feeling. I mean, playing on the same stage with some of your heroes and getting to meet them and talk with them and to get them to listen to your music and watch you as well, maybe from backstage or something, and start hanging around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was. I think it was one year. I'm trying to remember if it was. I think I was still with Visions of Atlantis. Must have been like in 2016. We played Masters of Rock Festival, and we were playing the second day. But the first day, our lead singer Clementine, she was also doing guest vocals for Serenity. And on that day that she was playing with Serenity, headlining on the festival with Dream Theater, and afterwards, after the show, after they had played, after Clemmy had played with Serenity, I remember that James Labrie walked over to her and told her, "Yeah, I was checking out the show," and like she couldn't really believe it. It was really kind of nice. So sometimes you have those experiences. I think it was last year also when we played Masters of Rock in Czech Republic. At some point, it was the drummer from Amon Amarth, who were headlining, somehow popped into our tent backstage and just said hi and said like, "Yeah, I really like your stuff." It's like, what the hell? How do you even know we exist? So it's like very, very. So sometimes you have those nice, like, little bit surreal moments. So it's cool in that way for sure.
I wasn't in a band, but having. Ultras of Metal used to exist as a magazine like in the 90s, and I restored it after 20 years. So back then I had the opportunity also to, for example, be backstage at Wacken in 2001, meeting a lot of bands and everything. So one funny story I remember, for example, I was watching The Haunted live, and I was in front in the photo area with the photographers, and suddenly a guy just grabs me next to me, and we, just to headbang together. So we started headbanging the hell out of the song, and then the song finishes and he goes like high five, and it was Jeff Loomis. So,
nice.
Like, well,
nice.
That's a surprise,
And also, high fives from Jeff Loomis probably hurt a lot because his hands are huge. So
I don't know, because I'm 2 meters tall. I don't know. I don't remember that.
But... Okay, so you're so your hands are huger. I understand.
Yeah, man. Okay, so
I have tiny hands.
Okay, next question has already been answered. Okay.
This is a regular sized quarter glass. That's how tiny my hands are.
Okay. Well, looks normal. Looks normal, man. Okay. The festival, the Ghostlands and Ravenlands Festival, coming over to Athens next Sunday. It's organized by the Silent Rage. Cool guys, right?
So, absolutely. Look at
what do you think of their music?
Oh, that's really cool. When Nico sent me their latest album to check it out, I think it was a little bit before it was released. It reminded me a lot of this, let's say, US type of power metal, but also from a lot of bands that play the style from Germany. So it reminded me a little bit of Brainstorm from Germany, a little bit of Jack Panzer, that kind of style. Even though Nico said that he doesn't even like those kind of bands, surprisingly, but for me, it reminded me a lot of those acts. So I was really surprised that didn't cross over in terms of the inspirations. But yeah, I like it as like this kind of bit heavier power metal, the bit more serious one, so that's really cool. Great band. Nice guys.
Okay. Siegfried, you have two relatively new members in your lineup. I don't know if I will pronounce the names correctly. Matt Plekhanov on the
Yes,
guitars.
that's right.
Plekhanov, since 2022. And Chris Aukenthaler on the drums since 2024. Did I pronounce the names correctly?
Perfectly.
Okay. Good, perfect, good. Okay. How is the collaboration going so far? Was it challenging to work with new people in the Dragony team?
It was actually pretty good. Matt had already been working with us on the previous album in the production process. And then after we had finished the album and released it, it became clear that our guitarist Andy wouldn't be able to continue with the band. You know, he had a new job, he got his first child with his wife, etc. You know, life circumstances change, so there was not going to be enough time to keep up with a band like that. And similar experience with Frederick, our longtime original member, drummer. He also had some, you know, personal stuff to take care of, work stuff to take care of. And at some point, you just have to make the decision, okay, if you're not really going to be available to a sufficient degree, then it doesn't really work with you staying in the band. And so we had to change things up a little bit. But I think it was a good and also necessary update in a way, because both of them are a bit younger than the rest of the band. Matt will be turning 30 this year, and especially Chris, he's like 24 right now. So they brought a lot of new energy and new drive into the whole thing. So, and I think for a band that's been going for almost 20 years, that's been really, really necessary. Cool. little bit of a refresher. Okay.
Can you tell us, how did Dragony start? Can you tell us a story?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I said, after breaking up the band that was named Eleftheria, I took a little bit of break from band stuff, but then, you know, got the itch again. And back in the days, it was a little bit before all the social media stuff. So there were internet forums, and local musician forums. And I was just like looking through them and found basically a post from the guy who would be the other original founding member, Daniel Stockinger. He was a guitarist. He had some songs ready. He had like a small studio, so that was like sounded promising, and that's how we decided to start this kind of like studio project thing. And that's basically, you know, meeting through the internet, also finding the rest of our members mostly through internet stuff. It was fun, and very chaotic early, you know, times when you don't really have a working dynamic yet, when you don't know where it's gonna go with the band. But I mean, we were also still in our 20s, mid-20s, and you know, you have a lot of time to waste on this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Good times, and because I'm old, I remember them, and quite different from today.
So do I. Right? So do I.
Yeah, quite different from today. I mean, it's also a little bit romantic, you know, the time back then. You know, we would have a lot of letter exchanges. Let me turn the phone off. Somebody's calling me, and I'm using the phone as a camera. Sorry.
Right.
Okay. And so I remember it was the letter exchange thing, and you were waiting for a long time, and in order to listen to something, you had to really dig into it and try to it was way more difficult to find some good music and to research and to find, you know, whatever you liked. But at the same time, it was very beautiful with the tape trading, you know, with the fanzines, the printed fanzines and everything. So I don't know. How would you compare that time with today?
Yeah, I think the main difference is that I think the appreciation for an individual piece of music, especially an album, has just evaporated. I think that's the biggest loss I think that I see from those times, because nowadays, with the entire music catalog of the world being available basically for free at all times, it devalues the experience. Also, people's attention spans have evaporated accordingly. So there's like, you know, 2.5 minute 2 minute songs that dominate the charts, and people like just check out one song, and if within like 5 seconds or 10 seconds it doesn't really hit the spot, then they immediately switch to the next thing. So people don't really dig into that kind of stuff anymore, unless of course if you're the classical old school type of metalhead and you really want to experience the stuff, then you would still probably do this. But a lot of the listening culture has changed, and you see it also reflected in the bands, even in the metal scene, that are really popular today. Like I said, you have like old school power metal bands that had a lot of intricate song structures, orchestrations, etc., like Rhapsody, for example, or Nightwish. But nowadays you have a lot of more modern power metals bands that follow a more like straightforward, much simpler type of songwriting, which is also fine because it works really well in a live environment, etc. But it's a little bit more one-dimensional compared to a lot of stuff that was coming out 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Plus, we are being bombarded constantly from 1,000 different bands, and it's very difficult, regardless of the attention span having been reduced and everything, to pay attention to one thing, because you've got the next button and the next band, and then it's just back in the day we had 10 bands to listen to. Now you have 1,000. And it's like it's easier to get out there and show your work, but you're getting lost in the sea of so many different options.
Lost in the white noise. I mean, back in the days it was really the labels who worked as the gatekeepers, and they get a lot of crap for it, but at the same time it was also kind of helpful because there was a pre-selection being done, and there was a certain limited pool of music that you could choose from, and you would still find something, and it would usually be like higher quality stuff. Nowadays, everybody can record whatever they want in their bedroom and throw it out at a somewhat, like, let's say, okay-ish quality, but everything sounds the same. If you go to YouTube, you have all those YouTubers, amazing guitarists, what have you, writing the stuff, but everyone uses the same sample drums. Everything sounds exactly the same, and there's just too much of everything. And how do you then find the needle in the haystack, the thing that works for you? So in that sense, sometimes labels can still help, but they're also chasing trends. They also want to sell stuff, so you have to go for the stuff that people will actually still buy, especially nowadays. That's hard enough. It's kind of a difficult position, I think, also for labels nowadays. And it's a little bit sad, for sure.
The main label today is YouTube and Spotify. And what you said before is that they were like the gatekeepers, and they would decide what's good, what's not, and they would sign the bands that were really, good or stuff like that. And I think this counts not only music, it counts with everything. For example, back in the day when there wasn't any Facebook or any social media, where everybody has a podium to step on and get an audience. Newspapers, you would write something. If it was stupid, they would be the gatekeepers, and they would not publicize it, for example. But today, you don't need any newspaper or any gatekeeper. You can get it out, and everybody with an absurd idea, they can get together and they can group a group, and you see a lot of absurdities out there.
There's no filters for stupidity anymore.
Anyways, but I don't want to focus on negative.
No, let's not go into that. No, it's never a good thing.
All right. Siegfried, I have more questions, but we've we just completed an hour, and I think it's some nice time that we could have a 3-minute break. Take it easy. You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I think if we could do like a little bit more afterwards, like 10-15 minutes or so, then unfortunately I'm gonna have to sign off soon. It's a work day tomorrow, and it's you know how it is.
Absolutely. We're gonna have a 3 minutes break, everybody. Don't go, don't leave us. Stay with us. We'll be back together in 3 minutes with Siegfried from Dragony. See you all in a bit. Thank you. Okay, here we are again. Thank you for waiting. I hope you enjoyed the small break. Okay, so here we are again with Siegfried from Dragony. Siegfried, the last question I was I had noted over here is that I wanted to ask you, when did you first start listening to metal? At what age?
But my history with metal is a little bit tricky because I grew up listening mostly to, like, say, classic rock of the 70s, maybe even late 60s, through my uncles who were very much into that. So like bands like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Uriah Heep, Jethro Tull. So that's what I was listening to when I was like around like 10 years old or something like that. But over the years, when I turned, like, I say 14, 15, I wanted to know what kind of contemporary rock music looked like, because I knew all those old bands, but I didn't know what was happening right now, because in the 90s, everything you would hear in the charts or on TV would be like either grunge stuff or would be Eurodance or something like that. So I think I bought a Metal Hammer magazine at one point, was just, thumbing through the pages, found, like I mentioned, Hammerfall, like a full page ad, and it had like this, very colorful, like this shredder looking guy with the hammer, etc., and lightning and whatnot. And I thought, like, oh yeah, this looks like very fantasy style, that what I liked at the time in my video games or books that I was reading. So I decided to check that out. Back then, actually downloaded a song, that took like probably 2 hours to download. Really liked it, and next day went to my local record store and pre-ordered the album. And that's
Cool.
how it kind of started. I mean, I did know Metallica before, because they were huge, of course. Had 1 or 2 albums of theirs as well, but never really got into them until at the later point. They're also still not my favorite band of all time. Of course, they're very iconic and everything, and they have some amazing songs, but never liked the band that really captured me too much. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, and then started with Hammerfall, and then just tried to discover all those bands that magazines would recommend sounded like that or similar to that, like the Rhapsodies and Sonata Arcticas and Stradivariuses, etc. And that's how it kind of got the ball rolling. And a lot of people move on from the power metal phases at some point. I did not.
You were stable over there.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, what age was that? I think you mentioned it, but I missed it.
Yeah, I would have said like around 15, probably.
15. Okay, cool.
Maybe a bit younger, actually. Maybe a bit younger. Because I remember I got my first CD player for my 10th birthday. So that was in 1994. First CD I bought was Bruce Springsteen's Greatest Hits. I also remember that. And still big Springsteen fan, still. And after that, I think I got into the kind of metal stuff. Yeah, it must have been around, let's say, 13, 14, something like that.
Okay. And a killer gig that you remember as a fan that you will never forget?
There were many, but one of the most recent ones was actually, was it last year or was it 2023? Was actually Bruce Springsteen in Vienna. Very, very great, fantastic show. I've seen him, I think, 3 or 4 times over the years. This was probably my favorite time. Great set list, great performance. One of my favorite shows of all time. That was really great. But there's too many over the years. I've been to a lot of shows. I really pretty much saw everybody I wanted to see that I still could see. Didn't manage to see something like Queen with Freddie Mercury. That would have been like the icing on the cake. But I've seen pretty much everybody else that I could.
But the first one that you remember that was like you went like, wow, like that you will never forget.
Yeah, the first one was actually also, again, metal adjacent. I went with my uncle. That was Deep Purple, concerto for group and orchestra tour. So that was like, I think, 98, 99 in Vienna, and special guest Ronnie James Dio.
Okay, cool.
So that was pretty nice.
Me Too says in the comments that Siegfried came out of the womb throwing horns already.
No, there was a lot of dark times before that. A lot of dark times involving a certain David Hasselhoff. Yeah.
There you go.
Don't forget the dark ages.
Okay. And Gabor says, question, if you were to start a different band, what genre or style would you go for?
If I would do metal, I would go for like very classic heavy metal, like no keyboards, just guitars, like let's say Judas Priest style. So like very very 80s. If not metal, I would do something like Bon Jovi rock.
Okay, but I would never expect you to
Because
start a death metal band or something like that.
because I can't really do extreme vocals. I mean, I could probably learn it, but it's I can't do them properly right now, and it's not something that I think, okay, this is like something I really want to
But I
do,
don't expect
or
you
that
to
I
be a
feel like
fan of it either, are you?
I always still like some kind of melody in my music. So if we're talking like melodic death metal, that works fine for me. Melodic black metal also, but the pure, like the really hard heavy stuff, that gets a little bit too much for me after a while. Like I would probably listen to a couple of songs if it's live at a festival. I would not specifically seek out a concert.
What about Death of Chuck Schuldiner?
I never really listened much, to be honest.
Okay, and Control Denied? Have you?
Nah,
No,
not really.
Because Control Denied is with clean vocals, and
Okay, interesting.
so check it out. It is progressive. He always was,
progressive is fine.
Yeah, so check it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
progressive is fine.
All right. And because we never forget to be fans, I wanted to ask you if you have heard any killer albums in 2024.
I do listen. Something distinguished. What I always really enjoy. I'm not sure if it came out in 2024 or was it still 23. Is Mireth, Karma. Mireth, I think, is like one of those really like promising new bands that are quite exciting. I mean, they went a little bit more into, let's say, a more mainstream, approachable style, as opposed to their bit more, let's say, oriental sounding previous album, which was really really great. I really enjoyed that one. But fantastic band, amazing singer, one of my favorite singers, Sahir. Reminds me of a young Russell Allen, which is, I think, a very good compliment you can give to any singer. So that was really good. Also, new discovery for me. I think they released an album just recently, Bloodywood, to stay with a bit more exotic bands. In terms of just power metal stuff, I think one of the bands that is getting a lot of attention right now and that has really something going for them is a Fellowship from the UK. They incorporate a lot of, let's say, Japanese power metal style and elements into their songwriting, and they're getting really popular right now and gaining a lot of traction, so that's really great. Also looking forward to checking out the new album from Majestica with Tommy Johansson, who is a good friend of mine. Used to be in Sabaton, of course, for many years, and he's now focusing on his own band, and I think they're doing really well. They just announced a huge tour with Battle Beast that they will be going on later this year. And those are also some bands that I really like. Battle Beast, Nora Loimo, fantastic singer, probably one of my favorite, especially female singers in the scene right now. Probably the best one I know, male or female. Beast in Black I also quite enjoy, with Yanis on vocals, of course, from the type of more modern sounding power metal. And we have some elements of that kind of style in our new album as well, not gonna lie. we took a little bit from those inspirations.
Okay. And did you listen to the latest Judas Priest?
Oh yeah, fantastic album. Again, especially Firepower was great, and I also really liked Invincible Shield. It's not, I think, not as consistently awesome as Firepower is for me, but it's like just a little bit below that, but still very very excellent.
Okay. And the new Dream Theater?
I'm not listening too much to Dream Theater on a regular basis. That's more my girlfriend's kind of thing. I do enjoy checking out every once in a while, but when it comes to proggy bands, I have for some reason always had different favorites. I was always a Pain of Salvation guy. Symphony X, this is more kind of my jam when it comes to more proggy things. Like Dream Theater is always a little bit almost too much of it for me sometimes.
For me too. Okay. Siegfried, is regarding the future plans of Dragony, is there something that we haven't covered? Perhaps is there something next? Any surprises that fans should be in the lookout for?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, of course, the European tour coming up. The new video single we're going to be releasing to celebrate the new album Higgs und Draconis once again. Very much looking forward to taking that on the road. We've played a few shows already after the release of the new album. We actually played the official album release show on 13th of October last year. The album came out on 12th of October. We played on 13th of October in Birmingham. So that was really cool at Power Metal Quest Fest, playing at the birthplace of heavy metal in Birmingham. So that was really, really quite amazing experience. But we've only played a handful of shows since then, and now with the tour coming up and the festival season this year, we'll do a lot more and have a lot more opportunity to promote the new album. So this is what we're really looking forward to. Not the least being, of course, playing in Athens for the first time. I have a lot of friends in Greece, in Athens specifically. I've visited many times over the years. I've been to Kitaro a couple of times. So that's really something I'm looking forward to be able to play there. I think first time I was there was in 2014 at the Up the Hammers Festival that year. Most recently in 2019, checking out Primal Fear and Gus G. Gus is also a good friend. Meanwhile, I promoted some shows of his, both with Firewind, both and his solo shows in Vienna from time to time. Was on tour with Bob Katsionis, of course, on when he was in Sirius Black. So yeah, lot of good memories. George Bokos, formerly of Rotting Christ, is a good friend. So yeah, looking forward to meeting a lot of those people this weekend.
It's a nice coincidence, because Pavlos Klad in the comments, he asks about Firewind. What do you think?
That was actually one of the very first shows we played when we were still called Dragon Slayer Project. We played in Vienna at the Viper Room in 2008 as a support act for Firewind. So that was one of our very first shows supporting a bigger international band. We still sucked pretty bad at the time, to be honest, but the show was very memorable. It was a great show. I know the Firewind guys remembered it for many, many years. It was really great atmosphere back then.
What do you think of their music?
Firewind has always been very good. Always had great singers. Of course, Gus is Gus. Bob is also amazing, being able to play both keyboards and guitars at a fantastic level. Like songwriting wise, maybe like I'm missing a little bit the really big, huge hits. They had a few great songs over the years, always good. Maybe like the last final spark to take it to the huge level. I don't know. It never materialized to that extent, even though they're all fantastic musicians. Like when it comes to live shows, I've rarely seen bands perform better than Firewind perform live on a constant basis. I've seen them many times over the years, and those guys have always been like top of the line musicians. Like I couldn't really tell or name any band that is technically on that level constantly as Firewind are.
Cool. I will be keeping it short, as also it is a working day tomorrow, as you said. And so here's my final question for today. And guys, if anybody has any last question in the comment section, now is the time to write it. So my question is there any artist that you would love to collaborate with? Any artist, living or dead?
Oh man, like that, of course. There's always, like I said, Freddie Mercury would be, of course, or generally anybody, like Queen, one of the greatest bands of all time, I think. In terms of living collaboration, oh man, there's too many choices. I mean, you always have, the standards that you could go for, like a Bruce Dickinson, for example, something like that. If I would go for something more realistic, I would stick with David DeFace from Virgin Steel, just because his music with Virgin Steel has accompanied me for so many years, and it would be great to do something together. Who knows? Maybe it will work out sometime. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
So if you were about to create the dream team of a metal band of your dream team, who would be the musicians in there?
Yeah, so let's say drums. There's also many great options. I mean, for a little bit more of the entertainment factor, I would probably go with Mike Tirana, because he's like kind of the entertainer drummer, apart from being technically excellent, of course. Bass, I always loved Lauri Porra from Stratovarius. Guitars, I would go with Gus G, definitely on the one guitar. On the second, many too many great choices. I would say one of my favorites for a long time was Viktor Smolsky from Rage, now Almanac. And vocals, I'm gonna have to go with Russell Allen.
Okay, cool. And since I mentioned Jeff Loomis before, I wanted to ask you your opinion about his plan to revive Nevermore now.
Nevermore. It's going to be interesting. I mean, oh man, I saw Nevermore actually on one of the last tours. It was a tour together with Symphony X, Nevermore, and Psychotic Waltz. So I did see them back in those. That was in 2011. Yeah, that's going to be difficult because, of course, Warl Dane had a very iconic voice.
Yeah.
It'll be hard to find someone, but then again, it's never impossible. If you just look at, for example, what Iced Earth did when Matt Barlow left, they found Stu Block, who has kind of a similar approach, but still different enough. So I think they could pull something like that. Speaking of which, Stu Block could be an interesting choice. But I really have no idea who would be a very suitable vocalist to have that specific vibe and to transport those specific songs that Nevermore had. But
I mean, it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, but
no matter what.
I always say, like, take Iron Maiden, for example. When Paul Di'Anno left, it's not that I don't appreciate him, of course. Huge respect.
No, but
everybody at the time would say, oh, it's impossible, because they already were iconic with Paul Di'Anno. And there you have Bruce Dickinson, and he took them off. I mean, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah. yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so you
never know. You never absolutely never know.
Cool.
It's the same with Battle Beast, like the for more recent example. I mean, the first singer, Nita, I think she was very good. That's the first time I saw them as a support for I think Sonata Arctica it was, or Nightwish, and she was very, very good. But then she left after the first album, and they recorded the second album with Nora already, and she's just a completely different beast, no pun intended, or pun fully intended. So you never know what's in store.
Cool. All right, I think it's safe to say over here that you can close with a message to your fans.
Well, I just hope that people enjoy our new album, Hicks und Draconis, as much as we do. We look forward to playing more of it on the live circuit right now. Looking forward to playing in Athens this Sunday. It's going to be a first live show for this year. Our first time in Greece. Looking very much forward to coming by, and going to enjoy that experience very, very much. And I hope we see many of you guys on our tour dates this year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Siegfried, for this interview. It's really a pleasure to have you here on Altars of Metal. And
thank you.
I wish you all the best with the new album. I also wish you all the best for Ghostlands and Ravenlands gig next Sunday. We remind everybody in Kitaro live in Athens. So all the best. Thank you very much. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.